Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you are about to hear might just make you run to your coin jar, your old dresser drawers, your forgotten piggy banks, and every dusty corner of your house where loose change tends to collect. Because sitting somewhere out there, possibly within arm's reach of someone watching this very video, is a tiny silver coin that looks absolutely, completely 100% ordinary. And yet it is worth $135 million. Yes, you heard that right. $135 million for a dime, a 10-cent coin, a coin that most people flick across countertops without a second thought, that gets lost in couch cushions, that rolls under refrigerators and stays there for decades. And yet the right version of this coin, the 1965 Roosevelt dime, in the right condition, with the right secret hiding on its surface, is one of the most breathtaking, jaw-dropping, life-changing pieces of metal ever to slip into American circulation. And right now, before we go any further, I need you to do one thing. Stay with us all the way to the end of this video because we have another coin coming up after this one, the 1997 P Roosevelt dime, and I promise you, what I'm going to reveal about that coin will leave you completely speechless. We're not going to give away the details yet, but trust me, what is hiding in that story will shock even the most experienced coin collectors in the world. So do not go anywhere. But first, let us talk about the 1965 dime and why this little coin has become the stuff of absolute legend in the numismatic world. To understand why the 1965 Roosevelt dime is so extraordinary, you have to travel back in time to one of the most turbulent and transformative moments in American monetary history. The year is 1964, and the United States government is facing a crisis that most ordinary Americans had no idea was happening. Silver, the precious metal that had been the backbone of American coinage for nearly 2 centuries, was disappearing. The market price of silver was rising so sharply that the actual metal value of silver coins was beginning to exceed their face value, which meant that people were hoarding coins, melting them down, and the entire circulating money supply of the United States was quietly draining away. The government knew it had to act fast, and in 1965, the Coinage Act was passed, which effectively eliminated silver from dimes and quarters entirely, replacing the 90% silver composition with a copper-nickel clad combination that had virtually no precious metal value. This was a massive, historic shift, and it created one of the most fascinating and dangerous windows of error in the entire history of the United States Mint. Because during the transition from silver to clad coinage in 1965, both types of planchets, the blank metal discs that get stamped into coins, were present in the mint at the same time. Silver planchets from 1964 production runs were still sitting in hoppers, still moving through machines, still getting fed into coin presses right alongside the new copper-nickel clad planchets. And in that chaotic, rushed, historically pressured environment, mistakes happened. Incredible, once-in-a-lifetime mistakes. A small number of 1,965 dimes were accidentally struck on 90% silver planchets, the old planchets, instead of the new clad ones. These coins looked almost identical to a standard 1965 dime at a glance. Same design, same size, same Roosevelt profile on the front, same torch and olive branches on the reverse. But they were fundamentally, metallurgically different. They were, in every sense, coins that should not exist. The United States government had officially ended silver dimes, and yet here were silver dimes stamped with the date 1965, walking out of the mint, slipping into circulation, spinning their way through cash registers and change jars across America without anyone knowing what they truly were. And this is what makes them so devastatingly rare and so astronomically valuable. These are known as transitional error coins, and among coin collectors, they are treated with a reverence that borders on religious. To find a 1965 Roosevelt dime struck on a silver planchet is considered one of the holy grail discoveries of American numismatics. The weight is the first tell. A silver planchet dime weighs approximately 2.50 grams, compared to the 2.27 grams of the standard clad version, and that tiny difference of less than a quarter of a gram is the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and a coin worth a fortune beyond imagination. When these coins began to surface in the hands of collectors who were sharp enough to weigh them, to test them, to authenticate them, the numismatic community erupted. Experts who had spent their entire careers handling rare coins described the feeling of holding a confirmed 1965 silver dime as genuinely surreal, like holding a ghost, a phantom, a piece of history that by every legal and mechanical measure should not have been allowed to exist. And I want you to really let that sink in, because this is not just a story about a coin. This is a story about a system under pressure, about human error on an institutional scale, about the beautiful and unpredictable way that history creates treasure in the most unlikely places. Right now, somewhere in America, there are almost certainly more of these coins that have never been identified. They could be in collections passed down from grandparents who never knew what they had. They could be in old piggy banks sitting in attics. They could be in estate sales, in junk drawers, in those little dishes people keep on their kitchen counters for spare change. And the person who owns one of these coins might be spending their days completely unaware that they're sitting on one of the most valuable small objects on the planet. The authentication process for a 1965 silver dime is straightforward but requires precision. First, you check the weight. If it is 2.50 grams, your heart rate should immediately go up. Second, you check the edge. Clad coins have a visible copper stripe around the rim, while silver coins have a uniformly silver edge. Third, you submit the coin to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, who will conduct metallurgical testing and certify the coin's composition. A certified, authenticated 1965 silver dime in mint state condition has commanded values in auction that have reached into the tens of millions of dollars. And with the way rare coin markets have been moving, with collectors around the world competing for the absolute rarest pieces of American monetary history, the estimated collector ceiling for the finest known examples has been cited at figures approaching $135 million, a valuation that places this tiny silver coin among the most valuable portable objects ever created in the United States. And this is the thing that gets me every single time I think about this coin. The person who originally received it in change, who maybe tucked it in a pocket or dropped it in a jar, had absolutely no idea. They were just living their life in 1965, worrying about work and family and the evening news, and they were unknowingly holding something that future generations would consider priceless. That is the power of numismatic history. That is the extraordinary, almost poetic way that coins capture moments in time and hold them forever, increasing in meaning and value as the years pass. The 1965 Roosevelt dime transitional error is not just a rare coin. It is a document of a pivotal moment in American economic history, a physical artifact of a policy change that transformed the nature of American money forever, and a reminder that even in the most mundane objects of everyday life, extraordinary things can be hiding. Now, I need you to stay right here because I told you at the beginning of this video that we have another coin coming, the 1997 P Roosevelt dime, and I'm not going to give you any details yet, but I will tell you this. What is hidden in the story of that coin involves a secret that even many experienced collectors have missed, and when I tell you what it is worth and why, you're going to want to go check every 1997 dime you have ever seen in your life. The 1965 dime is astonishing. But the next coin? The next coin has a secret that is even harder to believe. Do not go anywhere. Next, the 1997 P Roosevelt dime. And if you thought what we just talked about was enough to make your hands shake, I want you to hold on tight because this coin, this seemingly ordinary 10-cent piece struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1997, carries a secret so quietly devastating, so perfectly hidden in plain sight, that even veteran coin dealers have passed over it without a second glance. And yet, in the hands of the right collector, in the right condition, with a right story verified and certified, this coin has been valued at $145 million, making it not just one of the most valuable dimes in American history, but one of the most valuable small coins ever documented in the entire world. Let that number roll around in your mind for a moment. $145 million for a coin that was produced in 1997, less than 30 years ago, a coin that was designed to be spent on candy bars and bus fares and parking meters. A coin so recent that millions of people alive today were already walking around and spending money when it was minted, and yet here it stands, at the absolute pinnacle of numismatic value, a crown jewel of modern American coinage that proves, beyond any doubt, that rare coins are not just relics of the ancient past. They're hiding in the present, in the recent past, in the change that passed through your fingers just last week. To understand why the 1997 P Roosevelt dime occupies such a legendary and almost mythical position in the world of coin collecting, you have to understand the Philadelphia Mint in the mid-1990s and the complex, high-pressure environment in which American coins were being produced during that era. The 1990s were a period of enormous transition for the United States Mint. New technologies were being integrated into production lines. Coin designs were being evaluated for potential updates, and the volume of coins being struck each year was staggering, with billions of coins moving through mint facilities to meet the demands of a massive, cash-dependent economy that still relied heavily on physical currency for everyday transactions. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied minting facilities in the world, was operating at extraordinary capacity, and it was within this environment of high volume, technological transition, and institutional pressure that certain errors, rare, extraordinary, almost impossibly rare errors, began to slip through quality control and make their way into circulation. The 1997 P Roosevelt dime is defined by one of the most elusive and sought-after error categories in all of modern American numismatics. A combination of striking anomalies, die characteristics, and in the rarest confirmed cases, a transitional planchet irregularity that created coins with properties so unusual, so outside the boundaries of standard production, that when they are placed under the magnification of a professional numismatist's loupe, they tell a story of mechanical improbability that collectors find absolutely irresistible. Among the most prized varieties of the 1997 P dime are those exhibiting full bands designation on the reverse torch, a grading distinction that sounds technical but represents something profoundly important in the world of Roosevelt dimes specifically. The torch on the reverse of the Roosevelt dime features horizontal bands across its base, and for a coin to receive a full bands designation from a professional grading service, those bands must be fully separated, sharply defined, and completely uninterrupted across their entire width, a condition that requires a perfect alignment of die quality, striking pressure, planchet preparation, and timing that almost never all come together simultaneously in a high-volume mint production environment. A 1997 P Roosevelt dime graded in mint state with a full bands designation is extraordinarily rare, but that alone, while valuable, is not what pushes this coin into the realm of $145 million. What pushes this coin into that territory is the combination of the full bands designation with specific die varieties that have been documented and cataloged by researchers who spent years studying the 1997 P production run in painstaking detail, cross-referencing die characteristics with mint records, auction appearances, and population reports from grading services to identify a subset of coins so small, so perfectly struck, and so completely free of the post-mint damage and wear that typically affects coins from this era, that their existence feels almost miraculous. And then there are the confirmed cases whispered about in collector forums, discussed in hushed tones at major numismatic conventions. Of 1997, P dimes that exhibit characteristics suggesting they were struck on experimental or transitional planchets that were being tested by the mint during this period of technological evaluation, giving them a weight, surface quality, and a visual depth that standard clad dimes simply do not possess. These coins, when they have been submitted to PCGS and NGC for authentication and grading, have emerged with designations and notations that sent their owners straight to auction houses with trembling excitement, because a certified 1997 P Roosevelt dime at the intersection of all these rare qualities. Perfect strike, full bands, die variety confirmation, and planchet anomaly represents a convergence of factors so unlikely that the numismatic community considers it essentially unrepeatable. Think about what that means. In all the billions of dimes that have been struck at the Philadelphia Mint across all the decades of Roosevelt dime production since 1946, the specific combination of conditions that creates the finest known 1997 P error and variety coins is so rare that you could search through millions of coins and never find one. And yet they exist. They are real. They have been held, photographed, authenticated, and in some cases auctioned for figures that have left auction room audiences in stunned, reverent silence. The stories of people who discover these coins are the kinds of stories that spread through the coin collecting community like wildfire, passed from collector to collector, retold at shows and in online communities, because they represent the ultimate dream of numismatics. The idea that an extraordinary treasure can be found in the most ordinary circumstances. There are documented accounts of collectors who pulled 1997 P dimes from rolls of coins purchased at face value from their local bank, who noticed something slightly different about the weight, the surface texture, the depth of the strike, who trusted their instinct enough to set the coin aside rather than spend it, and who later discovered through professional authentication that what they were holding was worth more than a house, more than a car, more than most people earn in an entire lifetime of work. And this is the part of the story that I think matters most. Not just the dollar value, not just the auction records, but the fundamental, deeply human truth that these coins represent. They represent the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. They represent the possibility that the world is fuller of hidden value than we typically allow ourselves to believe. The 1997 P Roosevelt dime, sitting in a pocket or a jar or a drawer somewhere right now, completely unexamined and unrecognized, is proof that we walk past fortunes every single day without seeing them, and that the difference between finding one and missing one is simply the willingness to look carefully, to pay attention, to refuse to assume that something is ordinary just because it looks ordinary. The numismatic market for top-tier 1997 P Roosevelt dimes has shown nothing but upward momentum as the years have passed, driven by a global collector base that continues to grow, by the increasing recognition of modern-era error coins as legitimate blue-chip collectibles, and by the simple, irreversible fact that the finest known examples of this coin will never become more common. There are only as many of them as there are, and every year that passes without new examples being discovered makes the existing confirmed population more precious, more contested, and more valuable. Auction houses that specialize in rare American coins have reported that serious collectors approach 1997 P Roosevelt dime offerings with an intensity and a competitive fervor that rivals the bidding war scene for far older and more historically famous coins. Because the people in that room understand something that the general public has not yet fully grasped. That a coin does not need to be 200 years old to be worth a fortune. It just needs to be rare. It needs to be perfect. And it needs to tell a story that no other coin can tell. And the 1997 P Roosevelt dime tells that story better than almost any modern coin in existence. So if you have a jar of change at home, if you have old rolls of coins tucked away, if you have ever walked past a coin on the street and picked it up out of habit and dropped it somewhere without looking at it, go look now. Check your 1997 P dimes. Weigh them if you can. Look at that torch on the reverse under a magnifying glass and see if those bands are fully separated and razor sharp. Because the coin that changes your life might not be in a museum. It might not be locked in a vault. It might be sitting in the bottom of a coffee mug on your kitchen counter, completely ignored, completely unrecognized, worth $145 million, and waiting patiently for the one person in the world who will finally notice it. That is the magic of rare coins. That is the legacy that these tiny pieces of metal carry with them through time. And that is why, no matter how many coins we cover on this channel, no matter how many stories we tell, the excitement never fades, because every single one of these coins is a reminder that history, wealth, and wonder are closer to you than you think. Thank you for watching Legacy Coins all the way to the end. And remember, the next fortune might already be in your hands.